Why keeping Aroldis Chapman in Boston past 2025 actually makes sense for the Boston Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's all free. So make sure you continue to tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the show. Things are happening in Boston, a special group of players that the Red Sox have right now. Just a group of guys who's not afraid to be goofy. They just enjoy being around each other and they want to win baseball games. And we're seeing a really good product on the field. And the Red Sox were starting to string together some wins prior to the All-Star break when they went on a 10-game win streak. But people were saying, okay, let's see them play some real teams because they were facing teams like the Rockies and the Nationals. So let's see them go against real teams. Then they swept the Rays for 4 games and then they went into the break and then they faced the Cubs and Phillies out of the break, which was a tough part of the schedule, but they grinded through, made that Phillies series competitive. And then everything since then has just been full force Red Sox giving us good vibes and good baseball overall. Obviously not going to win every single game, but won that series against the Dodgers, which was a huge indicator that the Red Sox maybe can hang. Sweeping the Astros, another big series. They have some tough series still coming up. Astros and Padres both on the road, not going to be easy, but this Red Sox team is getting the pitching that they need to be taken very seriously moving forward, and they're having a lot of fun together. So we'll have to see what happens with this team moving forward. And one of those big pieces of this team is Aroldis Chapman. Why it makes sense for the Red Sox to keep him beyond 2025, plus an update on Roman Anthony and a pitcher who was DFA'd. So Aroldis Chapman coming into the season was a guy that Red Sox fans had a ton of mixed feelings about, partly because of the off-the-field stuff that took place with him, so rightfully so. A lot of people didn't love the idea of him being here, but also with his product on the field, because over the last few seasons, we haven't necessarily seen him be as productive as we were used to seeing him earlier on in his career. So because of all of that, people were a little skeptical about the idea of Chapman being here. But he has come here and been completely dominant for this Red Sox team. And I mean, absolutely dominant. And not even exaggerating at all, because you see him get onto the mound and you say, wow, I really, truly do feel like I can trust that Chapman's going to go out there and get the job done. And the Red Sox haven't had a closer like that in a long time. He currently right now has a 1.21 ERA with a 3-2 record over 49 games pitched. He's recorded 21 saves out of 23 attempts. He's pitched 44.2 innings with 65 strikeouts. And his whip is a .76, which is incredibly good. To put things into perspective, anything under 1 is considered a huge minority of absolute dominance. So that goes to show that his numbers this year have not been a fluke. When you look for somebody's whip, it's walks plus hits per inning pitched. So it's basically a statistic that measures how many base runners a pitcher allows per inning. So essentially, he's not really allowing many people to reach base, which is insane. He's in the 100th percentile in strikeout percentage because he just strikes people out at an unreal rate. 98th percentage in whiff rate and 91st percentile in chase rate. So he's getting tons of swings outside the zone. He's fooling lots of hitters, and he's just all the way up there in so many different categories. In fastball velocity, 98th percentile. He just has a nasty four-seam fastball that he can still throw 103 miles an hour whenever you want him to. A sinker and slider and a splitter are all part of his arsenal. And when he's out there, you just feel confident. And the Red Sox, again, have not had a closer that they can feel that confident in a long time. So when you consider everything that Chapman has done for this Red Sox team this year and the reliability that he has given us, retaining Chapman past 2025 makes sense. He is slated to be a free agent this winter. And with where the Red Sox are at right now, if they let Chapman walk in free agency and he goes elsewhere, then they're kind of stuck in a bind again when it comes to their closer position, because they have Jordan Hicks, who the Red Sox have alluded to a little bit that they might be interested in making into a closer for the future. And there's a lot of tools that he has that the Red Sox really like. So that's definitely something to consider. And a possibility is if you have Hicks in there and you're trying to make him a closer, wouldn't you still want a solidified closer when you're still in win now mode? Because if the Red Sox make a deep playoff run this year, that means they know that they have a lot of the pieces to be able to be a contender for years to come, because that was the Red Sox goal over the last few years, was build a team from the ground up, build a team that can be a contender, kind of like the Astros did before they started winning all those championships. They started with a group of young talent, surrounded them with the necessities that they needed, and got them the recipes to succeed. So when you think of the way that Astros team is assembled, you can point similarly to this Red Sox team and say, wow, you have your young talent that you believe a lot in, and to go along with them, here are some veterans with experience. So when you look at the Red Sox team going into 2026, there's no real confidence right now in Hicks's ability to be a reliable closer. And I don't really want the Red Sox to go through an experimental phase again, like we've seen them do recently, not last year when they had Kenley Jansen or even the year before that, but there were scenarios in which the Red Sox really didn't have a closer, so they were trying to play around with different players in that role, and you almost feel like that's backtracking from where the Red Sox are at right now when you feel like they have a nearly complete team. I'm not going to say fully complete because there are still some holes that need to be addressed, but when you feel like you have a Red Sox team that feels like there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of talent on the roster, you don't really want to take a step back. And by keeping Aroldis Chapman in Boston past 2025, that allows you to still have a solidified closer for the next year while Jordan Hicks continues to develop into the closer that you want him to be. Now, there are a couple things with that could be a question mark. There's no guarantee that Chapman's going to have as dominant of a season next year as he is having this year. I definitely did not think that he would have as strong of a season right now as he is. But going into next year, we could see some regression from him and him being a little bit less reliable in the closing role simply because he's getting older and he just might not have it anymore as much. We might see a decline in some of his effectiveness and productivity. So if that were to be the case, that could be a downside because the Red Sox could look at the situation and say, well, we still have Chapman, but he hasn't been as reliable as he was last year. But that's a gamble that they could be willing to take, knowing he's a guy who has so much closing experience, is likely going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he closed out games for us in 2025. Now, it's interesting, though, because I would monitor the closing situation, especially for a guy named Yohan Duran, who the Phillies actually traded for at the trade deadline. And he's a guy who's going to make a big impact to their bullpen right now, joining Jordan Romano, Matt Strom, and Orion Kerkering in the bullpen. Their closer, Jose Alvarado, is actually serving an 80-game suspension right now after a positive drug test. But Duran, with the Twins earlier in the week, last week, prior to the trade deadline, was seen hugging teammates in the bullpen, potentially meaning that a trade was taking place, but it ended up turning out that that was just him loving his teammates and giving them hugs. It had nothing to do with a trade being imminent at that time. But the reason I bring him up is because he is a guy who we should keep an eye on this offseason. He is under contract through the end of the 2027 season, so the Phillies might opt to keep him, but they do have some questions there when it comes to that team right now, because you even look at, for example, a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who at the end of this season is going to be a free agent. And he's a key piece of that team that, if the Phillies make a deep run this year, will be part of the reason of that run. And if they lose him in free agency, do the Phillies end up getting to a point where they might feel like their window is nearing its end, or do they feel like they still can contend, still going to try to retain him, and even if they can't retain him, still try to continue to build around the pieces that they have? The latter seems a lot more likely, so I don't necessarily see them making Duran even available for a trade, but it's definitely something to consider since he'd be under team control through 2027. I could see that being somebody that the Red Sox could be interested in if he's available, but I'm not seeing him necessarily being available. If he is, I would maybe say, if I'm the Red Sox, look into that, consider a trade for him. And that way, then you have a closer who has a lot of upside and has been dominant that you can have on your team for a couple years as your closer, as opposed to hoping that Chapman stays competing at the same level that he is this year. Not to say that he won't. If he does, then you're in really good shape again next year. But it's definitely something to keep in the back of your mind, is what will the Phillies do and what will their offseason approach be, because of the fact that free agency looms for big money players on that team. And the question just becomes, do they feel confident that they can retain their core group from this year fully? And if the answer to that is no, do they consider moving pieces that could be really valuable to another team and collecting some young talent in return? So lots of question marks surrounding that, but keeping Chapman in Boston for one more season in 2026 makes a lot of sense for a team that's truly looking to win now and for the foreseeable future. Coming up, what's going on with Roman Anthony? I'm going to be giving an update on him next. If you want to rep your team's colors in style, check out Gameday Hue, which makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. So they primarily have hats and golf gloves. My husband actually has one of the golf clubs and wears it on the course all the time. The gloves are comfortable. They have different sizes for everybody, and same with the hats. And essentially, you're repping your team's colors without the actual logo on it. And it's comfortable attire that you could wear all the time. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. I am telling you, if you want to rep your team in style, look no further than Gameday Hue, because honestly, who doesn't love getting new attire? I know I personally like it a lot, and I've spent way too much money with them. So spend some and get some attire. So Roman Anthony was a late scratch from the Red Sox Monday night game against the Kansas City Royals, and people were wondering what happened, because he was supposed to be in the lineup until about 5 minutes before the game started, and then he was scratched and Wilyer Abreu replaced him. And he also was not in the starting lineup for last night's game either. So he essentially ended up explaining that he was feeling some back tightness, and Alex Cora said that it's not a huge concern. Essentially said he's doing okay. If I wanted to, he could have started, but stay away from him one more day. He will be able to start, essentially, hopefully on Wednesday. So Cora didn't seem too worried about it, just basically said, he couldn't play Monday because he was in a little bit of pain. And then Tuesday was more of a precautionary. We don't want him in the starting lineup. We just want to make sure that he's taking it easy. And then he'll be able to hopefully come back and start Wednesday. So it didn't seem like it was a huge concern. And Roman also didn't feel like it was a huge concern either. So that's good news because Roman has been a key bat for the Red Sox. He's played in just 46 major league games, but he is a big part of the Red Sox lineup. His 828 OPS is a remarkable stat for a 21-year-old. Really, truly incredible for this kid. And he has been solid in the outfield as well, but because the Red Sox have a plethora of outfielders, he hasn't really been able to play every day. His swing decisions for his age are super mature, and that's something that is going to get him very far moving forward in his career, is the fact that he really has a good sense of knowing what to swing at and what not to swing at. And I'm looking forward to seeing that from him throughout the rest of his career as it progresses. And the biggest thing that I really like about Roman Anthony is that he just has this ability to go out there and make things happen. If you've ever noticed while the Red Sox are in the middle of a game, if he comes up to the plate and there's maybe a couple runners on base, you just have this feeling that Roman is going to find a way to come through in some capacity because he's always doing that. If he is taking an at bat, for example, this happened recently where the Red Sox had runners on base with Roman Anthony up and he hit a sacrifice fly to tie the game. So he's putting together productive at bats, which is a huge sign and has been huge for the Red Sox lineup because you do have some people in the lineup who aren't always able to put together productive at bats. Connor Wong, I'm looking at you. So if Roman was out for an extended period of time, that would definitely hurt the Red Sox a lot just because the impact that he has on this team is something that we don't always see from every major league player. He also carries himself very maturely. When he talked after Monday's game about his injury, he said, "I came out to the line. Everything felt normal all day. I felt something as I was stretching on the line and just figured we'd be cautious with it. I was super uncomfortable and relayed that quickly and just decided we were going to shut it down." So he didn't feel anything in the days leading up to Monday. And just like Alex Cora was confident that he wouldn't miss an extended period of time, it was basically just precautionary. They didn't want him to play through it in case it caused more issues down the line. And also they just wanted to make sure, okay, we'll give him another day of not a lot of rigorous work just to make sure that he's good to go. But if Roman had missed an extended period of time, the Red Sox lineup would have taken a huge hit because he's been hitting in multiple spots in the lineup, a lot of it being either leadoff or in the 3-hole. That's usually generally the ballpark area that he hits in. His batting average currently is a 283 with a 400 on base percentage and 428 slugging. But it really is that OPS, that 828, that stands out the most because it shows not only that he's getting on base a lot, but he's also getting himself into scoring position a lot. He's fast. He can turn singles into doubles. He can hit to all parts of the ballpark. And he just hasn't brought a ton of his power yet, which is something the Red Sox are still trying to unlock in his game because he definitely has the ability to just go out there and crush home runs. I saw him do it a lot in Worcester. So it's definitely something that he has in him, is to be able to go out there and just smoke balls over that fence at Fenway. And he's hit some balls to the deepest part of the ballpark this year, but you just haven't seen that full sense of power that he can provide. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing from him moving forward, is him showcasing that power. But he doesn't strike out an insane amount because he's so good at identifying what he should and should not be swinging at. And that's something that you can't always teach. That's something that people develop when they're younger, and you either have it or you don't. There are some guys who have terrible swing decisions. Trevor Story even is one of those guys. As a veteran with how much experience he's had in Major League Baseball, he still makes some terrible swing decisions sometimes. He'll swing at balls in the dirt. He'll swing at balls away from the strike zone. And sometimes you sit there and you're wondering, why is Trevor Story swinging at that? but not everybody has the ability that Roman Anthony does to be able to provide that spark offensively and be able to get you what you need. He walks a lot too, because again, since he has such strong plate discipline, it's hard for pitchers to get him out. That's all recipes for a successful career. And that's why I feel like the future is really bright for Roman. And he is going to be somebody that's going to be part of this Red Sox outfield for a long time. Yes, they have the outfield depth. So even if they had to put Anthony on the IL, it's not like the Red Sox would be struggling to find somebody to replace him. Wilyer Abreu is that guy who would slot in primarily, and because they have enough outfielders on the team, they could have an outfield that primarily consists of Abreu, Rafaela, and Duran, how it's been for a while prior to Roman getting called up. So that would probably be the primary outfield. And then if there's a lefty pitching, then you would have Rob Refsnyder in the lineup. Masataka Yoshida would take his reps. So from a physical bodies standpoint and having enough people to play, if Roman Anthony was seriously hurt, that part wouldn't necessarily be an issue. It's just the productivity that you get from him, because there are not a lot of people on this Red Sox team that we've been able to consistently say for the whole season that they can be the person who comes through in big moments for the Red Sox. And it's gotten better with everybody as of late. Just situational hitting as a whole with this Red Sox team has really elevated from what it used to be, where the Red Sox couldn't get any runs across with runners in scoring position. Now there's more guys who are able to effectively hit with runners on base, which has been very refreshing to see. But you look at guys like Alex Bregman, arguably Trevor Story with the hot streak he's on, Cedar Rafaela, and Wilyer Abreu even, and then you look at Roman Anthony. That is the group of players that you feel like you can trust on a consistent basis to come through. I would have put Carlos Narvaez in the conversation if it was about a month ago, but he has been struggling a little bit as of late, so it's hard to really trust him in the big moments. But the fact that Roman Anthony is a rookie right now, and he is able to show such poise and maturity at the plate, and some of the fundamentals that he has in him right now, you rarely ever see out of somebody that's his age and has his lack of experience in the majors. And that shows me that he is ready to have a very successful career at this level, just because of his patience and his ability to identify whether he should be swinging at certain pitches or not. So good news for Roman not having to miss a lot of time. The Red Sox don't have to do anything drastic in terms of a roster shakeup due to him being injured. It was tough when his good friend Marcelo Meyer went down with an injury, but they still hang out every day together in the dugout, and the vibes are still really high with this Red Sox team, with the young kids being part of the whole equation. So the Red Sox do need Roman Anthony in their lineup. He just creates a spark that you don't often get from every player across the league. And this is a kid who is so hungry to just succeed in baseball. And you want that situational hitter. And that is exactly what Roman Anthony has given. He's that situational hitter who's been able to be called upon to really play wherever the Red Sox need him to play and excel at it in the process. I do think eventually they might end up turning him into a DH. That could be the idea that they do have. If they find a way to offload Yoshida's contract eventually, then that could be his role, with the outfield remaining primarily what it is. But that's more of a longer term thing, or they just trade one of their outfielders this offseason, which very well could happen, and then they just make a more permanent spot for Roman in the outfield instead of having him DH. So lots of scenarios there, but either way, really good news that his injury isn't anything serious, even though he was a late scratch on Monday, and we'll see how he performs moving forward. But a pitcher who definitely didn't perform well for the Red Sox just got DFA'd. I'm going to be talking about it next. I know managing your money can be super stressful. I know it was for me, and I had no idea what I was actually spending money on. That's when I started using Monarch Money, which is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center that allows you to track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in just one place. So in addition to managing money, you're actually also building wealth at the same time. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. I am telling you, this will help you save lots of money. It helped me too when I started using it. Jorge Alcala. When you think of that name, it's probably very difficult to not think about his name and laugh. This is a guy who is unable to pitch and has really been struggling a lot as of late for the Red Sox. Now, it's sad because when he first came here for the Red Sox, he was reliable. He was once thought of as a hard throwing arm that could provide the Red Sox with some much needed depth out of the bullpen. But he has failed on the mound as of late, and it eventually got to the point where the Red Sox just said, okay, we can't do this anymore. We have to DFA him, because fans were just expecting the earned runs to come across the board when he was pitching. And the most recent example was on Monday night with the Red Sox leading 8-1 against the Royals heading into the 8th inning. He came in, and in just a third of an inning, he had 3 hits that he gave up, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 1 strikeout on 24 pitches across 4 batters. 8-1 ended up becoming 8-4, which eventually became 8-5 after Justin Wilson came in relief and allowed an RBI single. So what should have been a tidy blowout win became a comfortable 3-run victory. And Aroldis Chapman ended up having to come into the game to close things out in the 9th. And when you're up 8-1, that should never be a game in which your closer has to come in. That was what I was not happy about, was them having no choice but to use Chapman in the 9th inning because they just had a 3-run lead, so it was considered a safe situation. Alcala was all over the place. And like I said, his first few outings with the Red Sox were pretty solid, but as of late, he has been struggling a lot. And his 3 most recent outings, he came in a super low leverage situation when the Red Sox had a big lead, and he completely fell off the rails and gave up runs to make the game more interesting. So after Monday night's game, I said this better be the last day of him in a Boston Red Sox uniform. And sure enough, on Tuesday, the Red Sox DFA'd him, called up Isaiah Campbell to take his place on the roster. And it's sad because you never want to see that happen to anybody, but he just wasn't cutting it. He was acquired from the Twins on June 11th and posted a 3.31 ERA, giving up 6 earned runs over 16.1 innings pitched in 19 games for the Red Sox. The Dominican Republic native was signed by the Astros as an international free agent on December 3rd, 2014, and owns a 4.24 ERA, 96 earned runs over 204 innings pitched in 185 career games for Minnesota and Boston. So there were definitely some question marks when the Red Sox decided to take a flyer on him, but it just got to the point where they could not do it anymore. Over his first 14 appearances, he allowed just 1 earned run. So obviously he was really sharp at that point, but then the wheels fell off and he allowed 5 earned runs over 3 1/3 innings and forced the Red Sox to go to high leverage relievers on multiple occasions when they really should not have had to do that. So now is the time. Finally, they DFA'd him. So if he clears waivers, he can be outrighted to the minor leagues. But with his velocity, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see another organization decide to take a shot at getting the best out of him, because his velocity certainly is there. It's just he's all over the place and he gets hit hard. So that was frustrating to watch, was him on Monday night in that game completely fall apart again, because it would have been fantastic if the Red Sox didn't need to go to their closer and he would have been rested for the next night. And it just has a spiral effect, because if a guy is not able to do his job and you have to throw your high leverage arms, it's just tough when you wouldn't have felt like you needed to do that, and then they're not going to be available the next game. So Isaiah Campbell was called up prior to coming to Boston from the minors on Tuesday. He had pitched in 1 game this season and allowed 2 runs in 2 innings. The righty has a 4.17 ERA over 45 1/3 innings in the minor leagues this season. So that's a guy who the Red Sox have had go back and forth between the majors and AAA. He hasn't always been super sharp in the majors either. And then Zach Kelly and Nick Birdie were also both recently returned from the injured list and could be other low leverage relief options to consider out of the pen. So the Red Sox are kind of in a tough spot with the bullpen right now. They could use Justin Slayton back, but he's still hurt. They could use Brendan Bernardino, but he's completely gassed just because he's been overused a lot this year by the Red Sox. So they want to make sure that he's getting the rest that he deserves. They will bring him back up eventually, but right now is not that time. So the Red Sox kind of just have to make ends meet with this bullpen until that time does come. So that's a situation in which we're just going to have to wait and be patient because Bernardino has definitely been one of the most reliable relievers that the Red Sox have had this year. So that's the move right now. They could not handle Alcala anymore. When he came out of the game on Monday night, Alex Cora looked really mad at him, and rightfully so. He got his chances, couldn't figure it out. Now the Red Sox said, all right, this is it. If anything, he's going to be in the minors with us. So we'll see if he gets claimed by anybody or not, but wishing him the absolute best 100% always. It's always sad to see that type of thing happen to a player and they completely lose their confidence. So I hope that he gets to go elsewhere and gets a good opportunity and hopefully gets to perform well in the majors. Maybe Boston just isn't it for him. But I know Boston's for you, which is why I appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every day. Be sure to next check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which is available on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's our local Locked On experts giving you a rundown on every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. So make sure that you tune into that show next. Keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.